now invite to say something Professor Ağalar, actually, who was the chief economics advisor of the eighth president Turgut Özal, eighth president of Turkey, Turgut Özal. And yes, Professor, welcome to our conference, and the floor is yours. Can you say something for just opening speech? Professor?
We cannot hear. We cannot hear.
Probably closed his microphone. Yes. Professor Ağalar.
Let's take the opportunity to thank you the time to
Mikrofonu açık ama sesi gelmiyor.
biraz daha deneyelim. Sesimizi bir daha deneyelim. Şimdi duyabiliyor musunuz?
Doğrudur, duyuyoruz hocam.
Yes,
Tamam.
yes. We can hear you right now.
Şu an itibariyle, let me first of all thank Professor Dr. Sabri Öz and all the team who arranged this meeting. The most important point of this meeting is basically having a lot of nations and a lot of universities from all over the world to discuss all the matters that everybody thinks the most important for all of them. So I think most important point is in a world which we are living now, we should have a global view and global vision to look around for all the problems, which means that all these meetings and all these conferences must be attended with from a lot of nations and a lot of universities, so that we can have a common vision, we can have a common exploration, and at least we can understand each other. Most important is understanding each other. Now, today's speech of mine, after thanking everybody for arranging this, is about natural resources, because natural resources is the key for the future of the world and is the key for all nations, basically. We can always think that whenever something is innovated, everybody thinks that now they are free of the dependence of natural resources. But fortunately or unfortunately enough, we are always dependent on natural resources. First of all, you look around and you say to yourself, okay, we are free of this, we are free of that. But basically, we are always dependent on natural resources. For the last couple of years, everybody thought that they will be free of fuel and oil because of the electronic cars and because of the batteries. But on the one hand, when you are getting free of oil, you are getting under the control of copper, lead, and zinc. In other words, one of the natural resources replaced the other one. And unfortunately enough, a lot of times, human beings, all of us, believe in easy things, in easy approaches, and we think that we can buy the time. But unfortunately, you can buy everything except time with money. And that's one of the problems. And everybody says that now in 2035, all over the world, we will have the cars with electronic working with batteries. Let me tell you, to have all the cars in the world working with batteries in 2035, we need copper mines, which is not explored yet. We need smelters, which are not in operation yet. We need huge amounts of investment, which is not done yet. So basically, when we are making a plan, we should look at the timetable and we should think that there are things that you cannot buy by money, that is time. And time is the essence in natural resources. And you ought to have the time to explore, to dig, to bring out, to carry, to concentrate, to smelt, and prepare the raw material to be used in the industry. Basically, you ought to keep in your mind that when one technology is developed, it always needs, when there is an innovation, every innovation needs, at the end of the day, a kind of a natural resource which can back it up. And as the human being gets more and more developed, and looks more and more to live in good conditions and to live in better life, you need more and more natural resources. When you go back 100, 200 years ago, nobody had these resources. Nobody needed these resources because human beings had nothing in their hands. Even they had no electricity. Can you imagine? Now we are in a space, in a place, in a space, in a time that we need everything to be done electronically. We need everything to be done technically, which means you need more and more technical natural resources. Let me give you some examples to you. For example, I have given you an example of cars. Everybody thinks that the electronic cars will be ready in 2035. There is no way that all the world can change to electronic cars in 2035. There isn't enough copper, there isn't enough zinc, there is not enough lithium. Yes, there is these materials or these mines and minerals, but they're under the ground. They should be explored, they should be brought out, they should be produced, and they should be used, which needs a lot of time. We are speaking of a time span of 12 years. In these 12 years, there is no way that neither copper nor lead or zinc can be supplied to everybody that can be used in the world. So whenever we bring an innovation, we always hope that everything will come tomorrow. But unfortunately, it doesn't come tomorrow because of the time limit that natural resources can be brought out. Second problem of the natural resources is we always think that we are going to a very clear energy. This is the symptom that everybody is speaking of, clear energy, which I accept. But let me give you an example. If you are living in Europe, if there's a university coming from Poland, which they know, and the people around the world must know that, in Europe this year, one country had no electricity problem. That country was Germany. Because when Europe was dying because of there was no natural gas. When I'm saying dying, the industry had a lot of problems, the houses had problems, the heating had problems. Germany had no problems. When the problem was open to Germany, Energy and Economy Minister answer was net and clear. He said, we have our coal mines, we have our coal-powered power plants, so we can operate them. And interestingly enough, Germany, for the last 6 months, using its full capacity coal mines and coal-powered power stations, so that they are having all their electricity on. Which means, when we are going to green energy, we should also keep energy resources ready, which can be used in problems or in danger. This is the most important point. Second problem of clear energy is when you are having a clear energy, you need again natural resources. Everybody is speaking sun power. Everybody is speaking sun panels to produce electricity. Let's look at sun panel. When you are speaking of producing electricity from sun, which are using panels, you are speaking of need of silicon. You are speaking most needed of silver. You are speaking, you need glass, which means you have to have, again, mines and minerals to produce these. And let me tell you that if you look into the producing of panels, there is only one country who produces the raw material for some panels, and that's China. You know the reason? The reason is simple. Because the most environmentally dangerous or environmentally difficult thing to produce is the material that is used in sun panels. And that is why it's produced in China. In other words, when we are speaking of green energy, we should always look in reality. What is the reality? What's going to become after? Sometimes I believe that all of us, as human beings, as educated people, want to believe in positive points. We always find out that later on we'll have problems with these solutions or with these innovations. Basically, when we are speaking of natural resources, we are also speaking of economy, because all the world economies depend on natural resources. There are some nations who are very lucky, who has got all these natural resources with them. Look at Saudi Arabia. Look at Russia. They got all the petroleum. Especially Russia has got everything. Petroleum, aluminum, iron, whatever you want. They have it, they control it. But I want to make sure that there are three things in natural resources that you should always have in a country to get growing and to get all the natural resource income in your country. One you should have a security of natural resources. Secondly, there should be trust in the government. If there is no trust in the government, natural resources doesn't mean anything to that country. If you want to look at the subject, please check Russia. They got all the natural resources. On the other hand, all the natural resources, income from the natural resources in London now. Can you imagine a Russian worker is working for $50 in Siberia to produce aluminum or copper or zinc? On the other hand, somebody is buying Chelsea Football Club for $4.5 billion. The natural resources in Russia, the money is in Europe. At the end of the day, I want to conclude by saying that A, natural resources are essential for the future of the world. B, any innovation that you are thinking of needs natural resources. It doesn't matter A or B. We are speaking of batteries, we are speaking of lithium, copper, zinc, and lead, which means that everything will, at the end of the day, will need natural resources. So we need natural resources for the innovation, for the future of our life. On the economic side, any country who has got natural resources is the wealthy country. But if there is a problem with the government and with the owners of mines, or with the I would say private sector who is running the operations, or the government itself running the operations, then that wealth is always transferred out of the country, which is not valued in the country itself. So accordingly, I think nature is the best and the most important natural resource for a country is education. As long as you have the education, as long as you have got the educated people, as long as you have the right to carry on with your natural resources, you have to need educated people who can value your natural resources, who can look in, plan the vision of your natural resources, and also who can economically control and make use of those natural resources in your own country. So my words and my presentation will be finishing in a way that the most important natural resource in the world is human resources. At my last word, as an example, I will give you United Arab Emirates in Middle East, where I think they haven't got too much of natural resources. On the other hand, they've got all the educated people, and they are doing everything that they can. Nearby countries, there is no need to give any names, while they have a lot of natural resources and staying where they are. On another country, they've got only limited natural resources, but they got education, educated people, innovation, and trust in the government. My words would be, I want to thank you for letting me make my speech and my ideas, to give my ideas to you. And I will say at the end of the presentation, as long as we got educated people, as long as you got education well-doing, then you will be very wealthy and you will be very, I would say, transferred to a developed country. That will be all that I will say. Thank you.